Okay, you ready to come on up? Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It, Steph. Okay, yes, you see my background back there. It has completely changed, but we're always doing something different. So I hope you all are having a wonderful super. I am having a pretty good day. I finally had a day off from work and I'm ready to get into these hot topics. But before we do that, I got to bring up my guy. I got to bring up Dale Frey, who is the co-host of Let's Talk About Stefan, because we got lots to talk about. Dale, where are you? Where are you, Dale?
Difficulty here trying to get us both on the screen. But yes, it's an okay day as well. Sorry for the background noise. My dogs are going nuts. But yeah, where it's a busy time, and it's exciting to finally be past um, the deadline to file. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that today in the podcast. Because we officially now have all the candidates who are definitely going to run, and we now know what they're going to run for, and we know who's going to have a primary and who's not. So we definitely look forward to talking about that a little bit in the podcast. And I will try to um, remove myself from the scene and add you back. I'm having some technical difficulties trying to.
Okay, no problem. Oh yes, like Dale said, I am so glad that we finally was able to get the filing part over with. That is over with and done with, and now it's down to seeing who's going to do what. So it is so I'm excited. I'm really excited. A great ticket, I believe. We got so many different people that are running the race, especially out here in Texas, and we got a lot to be proud of. So I hope you're ready because some of these I'm gonna focus on Texas because Texas is going to be really, really the state to watch because we have a lot of great candidates that's running, especially on the Democratic side. Of course, I'm gonna push for my Dems because we're normal. We're not going crazy out there. We're doing trying to do the right thing. Now we got some people that might be a little bit questionable out there, but overall, we got a bunch of good people that are running for U.S. Senate, for governor, lieutenant governor. We got people running for House, state house, and states. Well, not state senate yet. Some of them might be running for state senate, but majority of everyone in the house is running. We just got a lot of great candidates, and of course, in our local area, we have people that's running for Denton County commissioner, Denton County judges. The plate is basically filled to the brim. I'm so proud of everybody that stepped up to run and represent the people. That's what's so important. So we're gonna get into the topic. I'm gonna let Dale talk a little bit. Oh, here you go, Dale. Okay, Dale, I can't hear you.
That's because I was on mute. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Finally, was able to figure out the layout issue. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, if you want, we can dive right into the
Let's
candidates that we have. I can share my window here because the Secretary of State, their website, is right here. Probably difficult to see, so I'll expand this out. But if you come to this website, you can go to, I'll just refresh it real quick. The Secretary of State website, you can go to 2016 and go to the Democratic primary election. And then we can go, if we come down here to Denton County, and then we say, let's look at Denton County, we can now see officially all of the Democrats who are running. And I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it more easily. So Nick Papas is running for county judge. Um, that's me. I'm running for county clerk. We have our county commissioners. Kansas Venezuela. She's awesome, by the way. Kansas ran congressionally before, and she was endorsed by Barack Obama. Then we got Commissioner Precinct 4, and Stephanie. There you are. And then we
What?
have, yep. And so the cool thing about these races here is that none of these are going to have primaries. And so that makes things a lot easier on us by leaps and bounds. The interesting thing, though, is that on the Republican side of the aisle, if I come back up here and I go to the Republican primary election and I find the candidates, so County Commissioner Precinct 4 is somewhere around here. This is a very busy primary. There are Diane is the incumbent, and I thought she was having she was having health issues, and I thought was going to retire, but I guess not. But she's going to have a very busy primary because there's Jared, and then there's Valerie, and then there's David. David here. I'm not too familiar with this guy, but I think, if I recall correctly, Stephanie, is this the mayor of the city of Denton? I know the mayor of the city of Denton's in here somewhere for Commissioner Precinct 4 on the Republican side. It seems that he hit his term limit. And so, in a lot of times when mayors hit their term limits, they tend to run for the county commissioner's court. Case in point, Kevin Faulconer was the mayor of Carrollton for a long, long time. Hit his limit and then ran for Denton County Commissioner Precinct 2. He's a Republican who holds Precinct 2 right now. But yeah, this is
He'll
really
be back
interesting.
on here
Oh,
in a second. Okay, we can add that back in.
oh, okay.
Okay, we can add it in.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so basically, there's a very busy primary for Precinct 4. Another interesting thing when it comes to primaries. Let's now go over to the state level candidates. Um, that's not true. Hold on. There must be a glitch. Go to 2026, and we go to Republican primary at the state level. There we go. Um, House District 106. This is where I live. And Jared Patterson is a huge butthead. He is our current state house representative right now, and he's going to have a very busy primary. There is Larry Brock. He was a January 6th rioter. He's also known as the zip tie guy because he was photographed in the Capitol holding zip ties. And then there's another person, this Rick Abraham, I've never heard of, just randomly popped up. Looks like he actually has a website. Let's check him out. Apparently, this guy jumped in and wants to also run against Jared Patterson. Interesting. Actually, this is the first time I'm seeing his website, but I'll do some more research on him later. I'll ask ChatGPT about him. But oops, where was I going? Here we are. And on top of that, too, I was actually looking at an article for Catherine Colbert. This is an interesting candidate, and not a fan. To put this into perspective here, this is an individual who ran as a Democrat in the last cycle. And people said, why are you running as a Democrat? Because you've just moved here to Texas from New England. And she was openly a Republican in New England. And her excuse was to say, well, in New England, Republican is basically a Democrat Texas, which is, I can kind of see it, but obviously that turns off a lot of people. But surprisingly, she actually won the Democratic primary. So that was very frustrating to a lot of people. There's a guy named Bill. Bill ran in the last election cycle as a Democrat to be the railroad commissioner. And Bill ran against Catherine Colbert. And I was telling my wife, I was like, man, I don't really, I was surprised that she won the primary because of the fact that, if you were a Republican and then you joined a Democratic primary and the other opponent is clearly a lifelong Democrat, like, how could you possibly win? I was ranting to my wife about this, and my wife said, hey, what's her name again? I said, Kathleen Colbert. She said, oh, it's because she's a woman. And also, probably more importantly, with the last name of Colbert, it almost looks like or sounds like Colbert. So people think of the late night show comedian Colbert. Some people will probably think, oh, I wonder if she's related to Colbert. She's not. But, it's one of those things where name recognition can go really far ways. Also, a lot of times, I think it's one of those things where a lot of people don't really necessarily know all the names on the ballot before they walk in. And of course, you're not allowed to operate your cell phone inside a voting location. So I think a lot of people sometimes just kind of vote based upon the name that they see sometimes, right? Um, but this time around, she's running again to be a railroad commissioner, but this time she's running as a Republican. So it's, she's flip flopping, right? It's one of those things where uh, a lot of the, like the Lone Star Left, for example, Michelle Davies, she's annoyed and mad because I guess Michelle was trying to support her the last cycle, and now she feels a little bit betrayed that that she flipped sides. You know, it's always frustrating when you see a Democrat flip over and turn out to be a Republican, right? We've seen that happen in a couple of different areas. For example, I think was it the mayor of Dallas, I think, or had flipped in a couple other areas. But yeah, it's certainly fascinating. I mean, I can,
Yes, with one Democrat into a Republican.
yeah,
That that really, a lot of people were really mad because he just ran, and then it was even he didn't give it. They didn't even go through the honeymoon stage, and he flipped over to being a Republican. So I'm surprised they didn't recall him.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they can actually. I'm not sure the process behind that. Basic,
They probably could have at that time, but now it's a little bit too late. He's already what 2 years in, 2 or 3 years in now.
yeah.
So
I think the only
that
way to remove someone from office is impeachment, and an impeachment can only be what I think is called high crimes and misdemeanors. So it might be difficult to
take
do
that.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure though. I would have to look it up because I do know that I've seen city council members vote out other city council members, but it might depend upon the bylaws. But very difficult to do, but also very frustrating. We've seen a couple candidates do this who flip, and it's always upsetting when they do. Um, I I find the Catherine Colbert case to be an interesting one because it is one where someone was a Republican and they said that they flipped over to being a Democrat. And it's one of those things where it's like, if someone wants to join our party, part of me feels like we should be supportive. But at the same time, too, we see in this case, we got burned, right? She never genuinely was actually a Democrat. She was just bamboozling us, right? So it's one of those things where when you see someone who flips and changes their mind, we should be like respectful of them, but at the same time too, we should also be very cautious. Like for example, like one of my family members voted for Trump like 2 3 times. Was actually in tears when Donald Trump lost the previous presidential election to Joe Biden, and she was in tears. She said, Trump is being treated unfairly. She was a total Trumper. Today, not anymore. I mean, she actually was like ranting to me the other day for a bit, like, Dale, like you think I'm a conservative. I'm not a conservative. I just lean right of center. I'm sitting here thinking back to the memory where she was crying that Donald Trump lost his election back in the previous cycle, and I'm like, okay, but it's one of those things where I think a lot of Republicans are getting disheartened by everything that's going on because it's starting to affect them, right? People are starting to see that ICE is not just going after undocumented individuals; it's like going after like their own families sometimes. They're starting to see the farmers are starting to see that these tariffs are not helping. Like the farmers are suffering hard right now, and Republicans have a
Well, he said
trifecta.
he's trying to come up with a bill to try to give them money back, but it's only for what one-time payment. And I'm quite sure those farmers are more than a one-time payment behind on bills or whatever they have to do. And it's a good thing as far as with the farmers that do soybeans that China did agree to go ahead and purchase soybeans from them. So we'll see how this all works out. But I just have a feeling that the bailout that he's trying to give to the farmers, I don't think that it's going to. I don't think he's going to take care of the black pharmacists here in Texas. So we definitely going to see how this all works out, though. But I'm with you on that. I do see a lot of Republicans that are trying to flip over to the Democrat Party side, but it does kind of bothers me a little bit when they decide, hey, I want to run as a Democrat, and because my thought is, okay, why are you trying to come over here? Do you have any other Democrats' value? That's the same thing that they would be asking us if we flipped over to the Republican side, So I don't know. But time will tell about how these candidates are
Yeah,
gonna do.
I suppose I think the safe way to go about it is to say or to ask someone what their values are specifically in detail when they flip. For example, in one of our Denton County CEC meetings, I'm not going to say his name because I respect the guy and he's also running for a very important position right now. But he did not have a very good first impression because he admitted that he was an independent, but then decided to run as a Democrat. And this is probably one of the worst things you can say specifically in a CEC meeting because that's where all of the Denton County precinct chairs are. So you have to know your audience sometimes. That did not land very. He was able to recover, um, but like Delia Parker Mims, for example, like was asking him to elaborate, which is shocking, by the way, because in our CEC meetings we typically we struggle to stay on time, and so Delia usually tries to keep a pace going in our CEC meetings. So for her to be like, "Oh no, like take more time and please explain yourself," is that it shows that like he clearly didn't really understand the situation he put himself into. If you say that you're an independent, but you are now a Democrat, like that's not a world shocking thing at all by any standards. But if you're ever in front of a CEC meeting with all the precinct chairs, you got to know your audience. Like this is a very blue audience. But that's why I was going to say, like when people do flip or choose to go to a different party, I would have to ask them specifically what values and what policies is it that made them make that decision. But
Exactly. Exactly. I think we need to do a little more asking, why are you coming over here, especially when they're deciding they want to run for office. They can, everybody have the opportunity to put their name down to run for office, but if you want that support, that party support, you definitely need to go through an interview process. Why are you, do you have our same values? What do you think about this case or that case? So we definitely need to do a better deep dive in who we let in our camp. That's what I think. But speaking of camps, oh my goodness, the U.S. Texas Senate race is hot, hot, hot to the very last minute. It was like what 3 o'clock when we found out that for sure that Jasmine Crockett was throwing her hat in the ring to run for U.S. Senate against James Tallarico, and Colin Allred decided he wanted to jump out and run for Congress again. So he will be running against Julie Johnson. So this race is going to be very interesting, and it's already heating up, and the GOP is already having and they having a meltdown. They're literally having a meltdown because Jasmine is running and they don't know what to do with her. And some people want to make her shut up. And she is not going to shut up, and she's going to go ahead and run. She's taking a lot of comments coming from both sides, really, because a lot of people are saying that Texas is not going to vote for a black woman statewide. And I don't know. I think Texas is ready to change. I think Texas is ready for something different than what we already have, because we've had these Republicans running Texas for over 30 years, and look at where we're at now. So I think right now, out of the two, I wouldn't care which one of them win, because I'm gonna put my support behind either one of them. But I'm like, Texas is ready for change. That's what I can say. Texas is definitely ready for change, and don't think that a black woman can't run. I'm surprised that we don't have someone running for governor. Never know.
yeah, it's definitely very interesting. Actually, as I was thinking about it, I was actually I'm not on mute, right? Yes. Okay. Good. Never know. I'm pulling up right now the candidates for the state level, and I'm wondering um, for the Senate, because is there anyone else other than um, those two individuals? Um, that's what I was going to look up. Well, I'll tell you what. While I try to look it up, I will definitely say I kind of knew that Jasmine Crockett was going to run the morning of, as soon as Colin Allred dropped out. That was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, why is he dropping out? Like, there's got to be a reason for that, right? Like, no one just drops out of a high profile thing like that, especially Colin Allred, who was who ran for Senate previously. The interesting thing here, though, is whether or not Jasmine Crockett is going to energize the Republican side. I'm sure she will. It will just be about, can she energize the Democratic side even more? Jasmine Crockett is, I believe, to be a well-known politician because she's
Hmm.
started so many spit fights with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, Jasmine
Hmm.
Crockett is entertaining to watch. It's fun to watch Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jasmine fight, right? But and there's a
Right.
lot of that in the media, so she's very well known. Though I will say this, I found this to be interesting. I don't know what to think of this. That same family member of mine, the one who's a Republican, it's my wife. But she was like, she noticed some headlines. She's like, oh, like it looks like Colin Allred dropped out, and I'm like, yeah, because I think Jasmine Crockett's going to run for that position, and it looks like. And she's like, who? I'm like, Jasmine Crockett. Like, who's Jasmine Crockett? I'm like, Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett. Like I just kept saying the name over and over again. It's like I don't know who that is. I'm like, how do you not? Anyways, but she also doesn't follow politics very much. But it's interesting because um, you know I really really like James Tallarico. I like him a lot, and if anything, I almost kind of feel bad that he was going to run for Senate because I was really hoping he would run for governor. And
Me too.
yeah, and the thing is, like, for example, between Colin Allred and James Tallarico, personally, like, I was going to go with James Tallarico, but now that there's Crockett and Tallarico, now it's hard. Like, I don't know which one I'm going to vote for. You know, they're both really great. Um, and if there is a multi-way primary, I'm going to pull that up in a minute when I stop talking. Then there will definitely be a runoff election there for sure. And I'm sure will be between James Tallarico and Crockett. But the other thing too I want to talk about is Colin Allred. It's interesting he's going back to his old congressional seat. So if some may or may not remember, in the last cycle, um, there was a huge, massive, massive primary for what Colin Allred left, and eventually was won by Julie Johnson. Before Julie
Mhm.
Johnson got into that position, I think there was like a 12-way primary. It was a massive primary.
Yeah, it was
And it was
big.
and the reason that it was a massive primary is because it was Colin Allred's old seat. Colin Allred was a congressional House representative for what was it? I think it was 26, and he left his congressional position to run as a senator against Ted Cruz back in the day, and that's what
Right.
opened up for Julie Johnson to get there. But now that Julie Johnson's in there, now Colin Allred's coming back to his old seat that he used to have. And so it's interesting to see the situation, and so I'm sure it's got to be very stressful for both of them, for Julie Johnson and Colin Allred, particularly running for a district now that has been gerrymandered because that was one of the
Yes.
districts they heavily gerrymandered a bit. But yeah, I'm I feel for them. I feel for them. I can't vote for either one of them. I don't live in that congressional district, but it is definitely interesting to see the different people making their choices. And I will say this too: some people get mad that candidates flip flop or go from like one race to another. I'm guilty of doing that myself. And the thing is this, the open filing period is an awkward time for us candidates. And I tell you, as a candidate, the deadline, it feels like, cannot come soon enough. Because a lot of us basically, when we put our filing fees in there, it's not cheap to run for office. The filing fee is expensive. And when you finally do
Exactly.
file to run for office, basically you're really kind of setting it into stone what you're going to run for. Because it's not like you can just run for office, submit your filing fees, submit your paperwork, and then change your mind. Because you can't do that. The only way to do that is to unfile, which by the way costs more money, and then file again for another position. So
Hmm.
when you file, like generally speaking, for us normal people who are not rich, that's it, right? And you basically are going to decide, all right, who am I going to have a primary with, or am I not going to have a primary with? So, like for example, like I wanted to run for State House HD 106 last cycle. Hava Johnson came up and said, "Hey, I'm going to run as well. If you want to have a primary, then I look forward to it." And I said, "Well, you know what? Maybe I'll run for the state senate instead." This cycle, I wanted to run for Denton County Commissioner Court Precinct 2, Kansas, Venezuela. Strong woman, awesome candidate, endorsed by Barack Obama and Pete Buttigieg. And I thought to myself, boy, I've had a primary before, and I've even had a runoff election before, but do I really want to take on someone who's been endorsed by Barack Obama and Pete Buttigieg? I think I might find another position where is vacant, because what's more important than having primaries, in my humble opinion, is making sure that we have races that do not run unopposed, because that does happen a lot. Case in point, cycle before last, we had 3 out of 5 state house representatives in Denton County, Texas, run unopposed. 3 out of 5. So it's always important to make sure that we have our candidates. And so I'm running for the clerk now. And Colin Allred is also making his own choices as well. So I know this sounds like a lot to people, that like, oh, look at these people, they're flip flopping, going back and forth. Well, honestly, like, that happens. But again, when the deadline to file finally comes up, which was last Monday, I think that was the 8th, now everything's set in stone.
Yes.
And so now we know for sure who's going to run for what and what primaries that we're going to have. Yeah.
Yeah, Dell, I think a lot of times people don't understand how stressful that is when you're leading up to the filing day. It is very stressful. A lot of people wait to the last minute, because I was one of those people that waited to the last minute to go file, because I'm like, well, what if somebody decides they want to go ahead and primary me, which I don't care if they want to primary me, let's go, but I'm like, well, if that person wants to go in there, I get what you're saying, especially if somebody's been endorsed by President Obama. I will be second thinking that too. But with me, I'm one of those people that I love a challenge, and I would have just gave her hell, But hey, I get where you coming from. I get where you coming from, Dale. But I'm like, I'm happy that you decide to pick something else that you can run for, and that you're not being primary. I But with the Colin Allred and Julie Johnson, I'm so glad that I'm not in a district, because I like both of them. And that would be a hard one, just like this one with James Tallarico and Jasmine. That's really a hard pick. That's really a hard pick. But my thing, I thought James Tallarico should have dropped out and went in there to run for governor. I think he has all the check marks. He would have brought Texas together. He's a young guy. He would have brought the youth. He's a Christian. He would have brought the Christians from both sides, from everywhere. He's likable. He doesn't raise his voice. He's very likable. So he would have been a breath of freaking fresh air for Texas. And I wish he would have ran for governor instead of staying in a race for US Senate. Because US Senate, I feel like you got to be a certain kind of way. And I guess in a way, I'm finna get ready to say this. Jasmine is that pit bull that's not gonna back down. And when you in Congress and when you in the U.S. Senate, you can't be. I'm not gonna say that Tallarico is timid, but I feel like you got to be a bulldog, especially when you got the devil running the country.
Yeah,
you
they
you
definitely have.
you got to be a certain kind of way, and Jasmine's not afraid. Not saying that Tallarico is not, and he can't handle him, but I want him to keep his Boy Scout appearance, so that maybe one day he'll be able to go run for president one day, because a lot of people see him as president material, but I really think that he would have fitted better as being the governor of Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they also have very different personalities too, right? Jasmine
Yes.
Crockett's a hardcore fighter. So is James, but in a different way. He always expresses empathy, and he knows how to drive a point home. And he can handle his own. He's been on Fox News multiple times and has been able to hold his own. But it is they have very different political argument strategies. What's the word I'm looking for? They have two very different personalities, and the way they handle debates
Yeah.
is what I meant to say. So for sure, it's interesting though, because it's, you know they're both powerhouse candidates, and I I really honestly don't know if one is better or worse in terms of driving out Republicans, right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of Republicans just don't know who James Tellerico is, but they definitely know who Jasmine Crockett is. Also, another FYI, I was looking up the official filings for the U.S. Senator in the Secretary of State website. So yes, there's Jasmine Crockett, there's James Tellerico, and there's a third one, Ahmed R. Hassan,
Oh
and
yeah.
he
Yes.
ran before. Um, I
Didn't he
mean,
run against Ted Cruz?
yeah, well, he was in the primary to go against Ted Cruz, and I mean, no disrespect by any means, but I will tell you, we did host a senatorial candidate forum at the Frisco Democratic Club, and he was there along with several others who were in the primary to run. Now,
Mhm.
this is the race that Colin Allred eventually won to face Ted Cruz. But before Colin Allred won that Democratic primary, Hassan was also in our candidate forum, and I tell you, the guy would just not stop talking, in not a happy way. Like for example, we had time limits. I was the timekeeper actually, and I was like holding up like the red flag, saying, "Hey, it's your time is up." And it was almost kind of insulting because we had Jason Whiteley from WFAA was there. Jason Whiteley is, I think, the local ABC news station. I think he hosts a podcast called Yolitics, and we were actually able to get him to be there and to be the chaperone asking the questions. And I was the timekeeper, and this guy just would not stop talking, like way over time limits, like to the point it was disrespectful. Um, so I don't expect him getting anywhere facing James Tellerico, nor especially Jasmine Crockett. I'm
Yeah.
sure that there will be this primary, and then I'm sure there will be an extra runoff election past that. I think Ahmed Hassan is going to be weeded out in this Democratic primary, and then we'll have a runoff between Tellerico and um, Jasmine Crockett. But again, we'll see.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
So let's
sometimes
move on
sometimes these things
the
happen where,
to the other races.
oh sure,
Yeah, because we got another one that's being primary too. Representative Vicky Gowen is being primary, and the craziest thing is this person decided to not primary her. He completely went to go file as an independent. Now that's what we were talking about earlier. I'm like, I would have respected him a lot more if he would have challenged Vicky head on instead of. Now that's what you call splitting the votes.
that's interesting. I have the Secretary of State website up. I'm also looking at who has filed for Lieutenant Governor. It's Vicky Goodwin.
Hmm.
These are all Democrats, by the way. So there will be a three-way Democratic primary for Lieutenant Governor between Vicky Goodwin, Courtney Head, and Marcos Isales Velez. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Marcos. So it's Marcos, Courtney, and Vicky is running for Lieutenant Governor. Um, I've not heard of the other two before, to be honest with you. I definitely know Vicky. Vicky's been a long time state house representative here in Texas, and she's shown up to our clubs a couple of times too. So
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure. I thought she lives like in the not the Dallas area. I think she's from
Think
Austin.
Austin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's in the Austin area, and she's very good people. And I'm just really surprised that she's getting primary. But you know what? My I'm not finna endorse, but I know where I stand at on that one. I don't know the other two people, but I do know we need someone that is going to do. That's a very important seat, the lieutenant governor, and we
Yeah.
definitely have to have somebody that knows their way around in Austin, and that's going to be able to hold the Senate accountable and going to make sure that we have the right things in place. Now, with that being said, I almost feel like Colin Alred should have ran for AG. He,
Is he a
he
lawyer? Has he passed the bar?
he's a lawyer. Yes,
Oh, I did not know that.
he's a lawyer.
Well, the AG role is actually very. complicated as well. There's two. Well, I think there's actually more than two candidates running, but Joe Jaworski is running for that position, and so
Mhm.
is the state senator
Nathan
Nate. I'm blanking on his last name right now. Um,
Johnson.
yeah, Nathan Johnson, and they're very capable. By the way, I will plug this real quick. If you want to meet uh, this guy who's running for Attorney General, Joe Jaworski, he will actually be in town this Friday at the Frisco Democratic Club. We're having actually three powerhouse candidates show up, and Joe Jaworski, who's running for Attorney General, is one of them. So if you want to meet him, you can come to friscodemocrats.org. You can find more information about our happy hour. It's this Friday at 6:30 at Jake's Burgers and Beer, and Joe Jaworski will be there. So it'll definitely be good to meet him as he tells us why we should vote for him to take the Attorney General's role. But yeah, also in terms of the lieutenant governor, it's also a very important position. I want to remind everyone that the reason the lieutenant governor is so important is because when the governor needs to, let's say, for example, leave the country, or if he's ever put under, like for surgery or something like that, for example, the lieutenant governor automatically, immediately assumes gubernatorial powers. So if Greg Abbott needs surgery, right, and he's knocked out unconscious for the surgery, immediately the lieutenant governor becomes the governor temporarily. So that's a very powerful position. Additionally,
Yes.
too, the lieutenant governor, while is not the governor, while the governor is awake and responding, the lieutenant governor is the head of the Senate. So when you talk, if you think of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, well, the Speaker is actually elected by our representatives, not us. But the Speaker of the Senate, or is basically the lieutenant governor, and that's where we, the people, have control over. And right now, Dan Patrick rules over the state Senate with an iron fist. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, the Republican right now who holds the position, he takes a butt ton of money from Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes, those two West Texas billionaires who believe that Jews should not be able to run for office. Case in point, during the Ken Paxton impeachment process, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick received a total of around, I think, $3 million from Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes, two of which was a loan. So it was $1 million gift and a $2 million loan. And you know that anytime a politician um, takes a loan from these guys, that's a leash around their neck. It's a leash around their neck because Tim Dunn and Ferris, when Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick puts himself basically $2 million in debt to Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes, they can snap at his wrist, demand all that money back when it's a loan, right? So it's a leash around the neck when a politician takes a loan from billionaire buddies, right? But definitely a very important position, and we will see who will run for that for the lieutenant governor. I It's a three-way primary between Vicky Goodwin, Courtney Head, and Marcos Velez. But in this one, I'll be honest with you, I predict that Vicky Goodwin may actually pass the 50% threshold and maybe not even have to have a runoff election. Because I mean, I'm just saying that just because I've seen that Vicky Goodwin's been at this already. She's been going all over the state. She should have good name recognition, I think, or the very least the other two I haven't even heard of. So, I mean, we'll see if they make their way around. But I've seen Vicky Goodwin and her campaign around, and she's very active. So we will definitely see what happens there.
Yeah. So let's talk about Tarrant County judge race since we're on the. Whew. When I tell you people are waiting at the last minute to jump in the race, well, Tarrant County is also having that same problem with the county commissioner judge. So, Mark Vesey, who has been gerrymandered out of his seat in Tarrant County, is taking on Tim O'Hara. And not only is he wanting that seat, well, he'll be facing Elisa Simmons for judge. So we're going to see how that's going to go. You know, there's a lot of people are a little bit upset about Mark Vesey running for that seat, but it's like this here. The same thing that we have to say about Jasmine. The same thing we say about Mark Vesey. They have the right to go put in for whatever seat they want to go run for. And if that brings more Democrat out to go vote, so be it. May the best man or best woman win. That's how I look at it. And I hope that there's no mudslinging. And I wish that whoever wins, that they work together to go against Tim O'Hara, because that is one county judge that needs to be gone. He totally needs to be gone. What did you pull up, Dale?
Yeah, this is the Secretary of State website again. I'm looking at who has filed for this position. This is the Republican side, by the way. So it looks like Tim O'Hare. He's a real piece of work. I'm not sure if you heard this. I think it was recently, as of like today or yesterday. Someone came up to speak in the public commenting time in the county commissioner's court, which by law they're required to do. And someone only got like a few seconds into their speech, and Tim O'Hare had him kicked out of the room. He had the police officers just
Yeah.
to escort the guy out. It's That's something, but I think we should probably sue over, because that's someone's First Amendment rights that were just violated. But it does look like Robert Trevor Booker looks like he's in the Republican primary. It looks like he's going to try to take on Tim O'Hare. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. Yeah, looks like he filed like almost on the last day. The deadline was 8th. He filed 2 days before. But yeah, if we come over to the Democratic side, Tarrant County Judge, yes, Elisa Simmons, Mark Vesey, and then a third guy, Millennium Woods Jr. I'm not familiar with this individual, but it looks like there will be a three-way primary for the Tarrant County Judge. So that's interesting there. I haven't heard of Millennium Woods, but we'll definitely see what happens there. Um, yeah, the county judge is very important, folks. It's the head of the commissioner's court, and essentially, they're the ones who get to decide where all the voting locations are. They're the ones who get to decide what voting equipment is used or is not used. And what they've been doing in Tarrant County is they've been cutting down on the number of voting locations, which is complete BS, because North Texas is booming in population. Tarrant County has around 2 million people living in there. And to put that as a frame of reference, both in Denton County, we have just over 1 million. In Collin County, they have just over 1.2 million. Um, and I might be confusing the word million with billion, actually. Oh, million. Yeah. Anyways, uh, with our ever growing population spike, there is no reason to decrease the amount of voting locations. If anything, it should increase along with our population, with our population growth. So them trying to cut down on the number of voting locations is just pure voter suppression, is what it is. I mean, I think we've all seen the lines going out the door at the voting locations, particularly on the last day to vote, on election day itself. And so when you see those long lines, you have to ask yourself, why is it that they're cutting down on the number of voting locations when it should be the other way around? But yeah, it's a really important race for both the county judge and the county commissioners. But the county judge is the one who kind of leads the commissioners court.
Well, we got some comments in here from Eugene. Eugene said, I would like to see James Tallarico and Jasmine team up for President Ron 2028. I agree with you on that, Eugene. And Eugene also said, Vicky is getting my vote. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Also, I see Eugene was also saying on Facebook, I hear how they regret voting for the orange, but don't come over to our side here with their beliefs. Wolves in sheep clothing can keep that red. You should keep that red hat on. I think so. That's referencing the Catherine Colbert and the people who switch sides.
yeah.
That's for sure, absolutely.
I totally agree with them, because it's like, we get a lot of sheeps that's a lot of wolves in sheep clothing, and I'm like, are you really who you say you are? And then when you listen to how they talk, that's just like TJ is running for I think it's Congress District 24, and some of the things that's been said, he's getting some backlash behind that too, to where people are questioning whether what side are you on. So it's going to be interesting. All the races are going to be interesting, especially let's move to the Denton County, well, Denton City race. This is going to be some popcorn type of chewing kind of race out here, because the mayor race, we have, you might want to pull that one up. We have, who is that that's running?
Yeah, I could pull it up. Actually, if I can unmute myself. Oh, there we go. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, here I got the Secretary website up here, and so if we
Okay.
want to go to 20, actually I could refresh my page. So we're going to go for
Okay.
2026. We're going to go for the Democratic primary, and we're going to look in the county of Denton. If I can find Denton, there you are. All
Yeah,
right.
because this mayor race is turning up and it's going into a full showdown. And the community voice have been risen all over the place. And they do have a GOP that is scrambling to protect the influence of Denton as well. But the one person that is a city councilman, he's running, and there was some backlash behind him running as well. So we'll see how all this turn out. It's just going to be a heated three, four-way kind of type of primary coming up for 2026 for this mayoral race. You
Oh, you
got
know
who's
what? I'm also
Angela?
realizing too, I can't
Uh-huh.
look that up here because the mayor race is considered to be nonpartisan. That's
Yeah.
another thing that people need to keep in mind. Now, when I say nonpartisan, yeah, see, I can't select. Okay. When I say nonpartisan, to be real here, folks, uh, there are Democrats and there are Republicans. A lot of these people, in understandably so, say that oh, the mayor shouldn't be partisan, or the party doesn't really matter to the local level, like a city council and things like that. And kind of, but it really depends on the candidate. You can really sometimes figure out how someone leans one side or the other. Case in point, for example, one of our Frisco city council members was saying, like, she's nonpartisan, nonpartisan. That when you go to her, you find on eventually you find on social media that she's been on the show with Steve Bannon. She was a guest on Steve Bannon's show. So it's like, no, we understand which side that you lean on. But yeah, there's a couple candidates. I think Brian Beck, I believe, is running for
Yes.
the
Brian
mayor.
Beck.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
there's a couple. I think there's a
Angela
couple.
Beer.
Angela. Oh, Angela
Uh-huh.
Brewer. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she's running. Yes. And I think, and then there's another young lady that's running as well. I don't have her name.
Yeah. Angela Brewer has been very active for a long time. She actually ran for the Denton County Commissioner's Court clerk, the one I'm running for. She ran for this court clerk 4 years ago. And then in the last cycle, she ran for state house representative um,
Yes.
for I think the northwestern part of Denton County. Yeah, no,
Yes.
it looks like she's running for mayor. That's interesting. Yeah. Um,
Yes, she's been around for a very long time, and I'm quite sure her name is out there. But I do know that there's going to be some stuff going on in that camp. But it's like, may the best man, best woman win on that one. So
yeah,
we'll
we're,
see
we're
how that
definitely
goes.
yeah we definitely want a Democrat to win that one because the current mayor right now is a Republican, and
Yes.
I don't know how that happened because I mean Denton City is blue. It's a pretty blue area. It's not it's maybe not as blue as like Carrollton or like maybe about the same frequency as Louisville, but I mean
Hmm.
it's blue enough that I feel like a Democrat should have been there. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, in case in point, I know the current mayor has hit his term limit, as I think I mentioned earlier. That's why he's running for county commissioner. He's going to be running for your position, actually.
Yes.
But that's going to be a very tight Republican primary there, as we were discussing earlier. But yeah,
Yes, 'cause there are three people running in that primary as well as far as on the GOP side. So that's going to be very interesting. Is it three or four?
uh,
Is it four people running for it now?
I can't
Besides
seem to
Diane?
find I can't seem to find out through the Secretary of State website because
Okay.
it only lists the partisan races. So I'm not quite sure. I have to look that up.
Well, whichever way, I know there is it's going to be 2026 is going to be very interesting, especially leading to the primary. We're going to definitely see who's going to be holding the seat after March 3rd because that's the final day. Now, I did hear this tidbit. Dallas, be aware. This is why it's so important for us to get out to go vote. The GOP is trying to push for Dallas County to hand count. Now you talk about Tarrant County having millions of people there. Dallas got millions of people out in their county. I can't even imagine hand counting all those ballots. So they're pushing for on election day that they do hand counting. So y'all be aware of what's going on. I would be talking to my commissioner court because I believe they're really trying to push it to make them count. So if that goes on in Dallas, I'm quite sure the rest of the counters are going to be trying to do the same thing. So that's why it's so important that we have commissioners that have brains.
Yeah, and actually, that's
Like
an
that.
interesting case because there's a little bit more details that I think we should go into there. I mean, unless you're, I do know that there's always been a push for by the Republican side of the aisle to have hand count voting. But I
Mhm.
know like a week or so ago, I think maybe a couple weeks ago rather, um, when it comes to primaries, it is the party that handles their primaries. So the Republicans in the Dallas County basically said to themselves, "Oh, well, you know what? We can have our primaries hand counted since we handle our
Mhm.
own primaries." Now, it does not necessarily mean like they can't force that to happen on the general election. That would be up to the county commissioners. But the party itself can decide if their primary is going to be hand counted or not. And the
Mhm.
interesting thing about that is because it seems that the Republicans, the Republican Party in Dallas was pressing in that direction, and they realized to themselves, "Oh shit, wait, this is going to be extremely expensive." And so it's one of
It's
those
going to
things
be
where it's
very costly.
yeah, and it's one of those things where it's kind of like some of them are kind of going back on it now because they realize like, oh, like because the thing is like we on the Democratic side, we're still going to be using our voting tabulators. You know, we're still going to be using our machines.
Exactly, because
So,
they gotta pay for the seat, they gotta pay for chairs, they gotta pay for equipment, the people. They said they already have 1,000 people already signed up to hand count. You're gonna need more than that.
no, I mean, if you know, when it comes to that, I say by all means make things more difficult for yourself, as long as it doesn't involve us, right?
Exactly.
Now, again, the only other danger there is with that if they do get their hand count uh, voting to somehow work. Let's say, for example, it is crazy expensive to do, but if they were to get like a big fancy donor like Tim Dunn or Ferris Wilks to somehow make them successful at that, that will give them more ammunition to push the commissioners' court to get the commissioners to then decide to do the same thing for the general election. And that's a terrible, terrible idea. I mean, not only is hand counting not accurate, but I don't trust it. I understand the other side of the aisle says that they don't trust electronic voting tabulators because they say they can be hacked. Well, equally, I don't trust a human being who can also be compromised by bias. You know, I mean,
Exactly.
I
They can
see some
pull
of
it
these
out.
crazy things some people say, like people who
Mhm.
like literally want to eliminate us. I don't trust that person to be counting my voting ballot. And yeah, but
Right.
when it comes to this, I almost say by all means, because again, it's going to cost them a lot of money. As long as it doesn't involve us, I'm kind of fine with it. But we'll definitely see what happens there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very interesting 2026 primary. So I'm like this here. If y'all have not registered to vote, parents, if you have young adults, 18-year olds, somebody that's getting ready to be 18, get them registered to vote. You got to be registered to vote 30 days before it's time for election. So please get registered to vote if you have not. And if you are registered to vote, we need you to go vote in your party. So if you are a Democrat, don't go over to the GOP side and go vote on their side to mess up their thing. That's not going to work. We need you to vote in your party. We don't need the red to come over here and vote in the Democratic Party. We need everybody to go to your own party and vote in your own election. Go
Absolutely.
vote. Go vote. We need you to vote. Okay. We got like 4 more minutes. Do we have any comments in there? Nope, we're good. Eugene is quiet, man. We're gonna have Eugene on one of these days. But Dale, I guess we can go ahead and talk about your election. What are you gonna be doing? And I'll talk about mine a little bit.
Sure. So, hello, my name is Dale Frey, and I'm running for the Denton County Commissioners Court clerk. It's a very busy position. Involves my mission will be to support our fellow county commissioners, like my friend Stephanie here, along with Kansas Venezuela and Nick Papas as he runs for the county judge. And my job is to support them and to file our paperwork fairly. And what I mean by that is I want to talk about just briefly about my opponent, Julie Luke, the current commissioner's court clerk. She, in the past, like a long time ago, when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of allowing same-sex marriage, she, as the court clerk, decided that she didn't like that, and she was resistant to supplying marriage certificates to same-sex couples. And she eventually decided to follow the law, but it's still, albeit begrudgingly. It's really one of those concerning portions here, where I believe that we need to stand in support of our fellow LGBTQAI plus community members, and so that will be something that I will be doing in a fairly way, as things are supposed to be. It will also be my job to be the follower of the Denton County Commissioners Court. And as a member of the Democratic Party, I, of course, will be reporting on what the court is up to. It's very important because I want to tell you guys about how the 287G program, a program that allows local law enforcement to be deputized as if they're ICE agents, the 287G program was quietly passed last February. A lot of us didn't even know that 287G was immediately enabled. They very quietly applied 287G to the entirety of Denton County, which deputizes local law enforcement as ICE officials. And as your commissioner's clerk, when I ever see that, I will be barking I will be a hound dog barking as long as I can about it, making sure that everyone understands what our commissioners are up to. There are two main points of contention in the Denton County Commissioners Court. It's that 287G program that I was talking about, that deputizes local law enforcement as ICE, and it's also our budget. And we need to make sure that we fund our healthcare systems. A while ago, we were given an opioid fundings that was not immediately applied for a long while. The Republican Party believed that the money given to us by the state should go towards law enforcement and things like that. However, the state specifically said this funding can only go towards medical facilities, and they were very resistant to that. So making sure that we follow the law and apply our budget is something that's very important as well. I'm sorry, I also forgot to mention voting centers. Voting centers is another point of contention within the Denton County Commissioners Court. Essentially, while we have countywide voting on early voting period times, we do not have countywide voting on election day itself, which is the last day to vote. It confuses people. People get redirected, and this is wrong. What it is straight up voter suppression. So I'll be running for the Commissioner's Court clerk. I'm going to do everything I can to support our fellow county commissioners, like my friend Stephanie here. Stephanie, tell us about your role in the Denton County Commissioners Court as our Denton County Commissioner.
Oh, you love putting me on the spot, don't you, Dale? Well, my name is Stephanie Draper, and I am running for Denton County Commissioner Precinct 4. Today, I drove on 35, and the traffic was horrible, especially in that one little spot where you coming from UNT University and you can just take one wrong turn and sit in traffic for an hour and 30 minutes. That's what happened with me today. So Why am I running? I want to fix the roads and make sure that our roads are being maintained the way how it's supposed to be. Because as you know, we have a lot of road issues, potholes everywhere, and especially in our rural areas. We want to make sure that we maintain those roads. Now, not only do I want to make sure that we have good infrastructure for our Denton County area, I want to make sure that we're transparent. Being a county commissioner, you have to be able to work with your city council people as well. So I want to be able to form a bridge where we're working together to fix a lot of the problems that we have, especially like with our public safety. Our police officers, our MES workers, they need to make sure that they have the budgets to be staffed. They need to make sure we need to make sure that they have proper equipment, because if your house catch on fire, you want to make sure that your fireman that's coming to your home is able to have proper protection to be able to put the fire out. Not only that, Dell had mentioned earlier about countywide voting. That is a huge problem in our area. Here in Denton County, we do not have countywide voting when it comes to election day. You have to go to your precinct. Now, the other side, they have a problem with that. Like we were talking about Dallas, they prefer you to go to your precinct. We are not in the 1900s anymore. We're in 2025. People are working. We have a lot of working moms and we have a lot of working fathers as well. When you get off of work, you want to be able to go to wherever voting location that is in your county to go vote without the stress of trying to figure out what precinct you are. And especially Denton County is most likely a college town as well too. Those young people that go out to go vote, sometimes they don't know what precinct they're in because they might not even have their card with them, but they know they need to go vote. Let's make it easier by making sure that we have voting locations where they can go vote anywhere in our county. Let's not be like our people in Tarrant County where Tim O'Hara decided to get rid of 100 voting locations. So those are some of the things that I want to fight for and make sure that we have affordable living for our people, and also we got to do something about our prices for our taxes. Our taxes are way too high. I know we're getting ready to pay our property taxes really soon, and it's too high. So we need to fix those problems. We need to freeze it for our seniors and make sure our seniors are able to live in their homes and not getting taxed out of their homes. So those are some of the things that I want to do that's part of my platform. And I would love for you to volunteer and support me any way that you possibly can. And I'll be putting out my whole Act Blue or however way you want to donate to me to help out or even volunteer. But you can always go for draperprotexas.com to come and support me. And you'll see me every Wednesday on Let's Talk About It Stuff, except for Christmas, because we're not going to be on for Christmas Day. We're going to be off.
Oh yeah, actually, I'll be out of the country too. Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna be off. So definitely. But I appreciate everyone. And if you're on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel so that we can reach any and everyone throughout the state and out the country.
Yep,
Oh,
absolutely.
y'all got
And
something up
actually,
here.
if I may, I wanted to plug one thing just real quick too. I think I might have mentioned this before, but this Friday, the Frisco Democratic Club is having a happy hour. We have Joe Jaworski, who's going to show up, who's running for Attorney General. We have Mr. Palmer, who's running to be for the fourth Court of Appeals, and we have John Rosenthal. John Rosenthal is a current state house representative who is running for the railroad commissioner. So he'll actually be the one running against that Kathleen Colbert that we were talking about earlier. All three of them are going to be at the Frisco Democratic Club this Friday on December 12th at 6:30 p.m. at Jake's Burgers and Beer. You can find more information about us at friscodemocrats.org. And if you want to meet these candidates, by all means, come out, and it will be a good time to meet with them and also meet other like-minded individuals.
All righty then. Great. So if you don't have anything to do this Friday night, go support, do the meet and greet with the candidates, because you never know. They might be your candidate that will be taking care of you. So, Dale, are you ready to sign off tonight?
Yeah, I think I plugged everything I needed to. Yep. So FriscoDemocrats.org.
Okay. All righty then. Well, thank y'all, everyone, for tuning in to Let's Talk About It, Steph. We'll be back on next week, and hopefully, we will have some more candidates that's going to jump on, or a special guest. You just never know what's going to happen on Let's Talk About It. And if you would like to be a part of it, to be a guest, please reach out to me at Let's Talk About It, Steph at gmail.com, and we'll see you soon. Y'all have a great night.